Billionaire grants Maid's daughter 3 wishes. Her first wish leaves him speechless. The rain was pouring outside the glass walls of the Kensington estate, blurring the city lights like melting jewels. Inside, everything gleamed. Marble floors, golden chandeliers, and the faint scent of money. Billionaire Ethan Cole, 42, was the kind of man who could buy anything, except peace. His empire stretched across continents, but his mansion felt empty, echoing with silence and regret. Since his wife's death 3 years ago, Ethan had buried himself in work, building walls no one dared to climb, except one person. Maria, his maid for nearly a decade, had stayed loyal through every storm. She was humble, quiet, never once asking for more than her paycheck. But that morning she arrived late, her eyes red, her hands trembling. "Sir," she whispered, "I'm sorry. My daughter's been very sick. I didn't want to trouble you." Ethan barely looked up from his laptop. "Take care of it, Maria. Whatever it costs, I'll cover it." Maria hesitated. "No, sir. She doesn't need money. She needs hope." That line lingered with him all day. Hope, something even billions couldn't buy. That evening Maria came again, this time with her 10-year-old daughter, Lily, a frail little girl with big brown eyes and a shy smile. She held a folded piece of paper tightly in her hands. "Mr. Cole," Lily said softly, "Mom says you're like a genie, because you make wishes come true for people." Ethan chuckled, the first real laugh he'd had in months. "A genie, huh? I don't know about that. But let's say I can grant you 3 wishes. What would you want?" Maria tried to stop her, embarrassed. "Lily, don't—" But Ethan raised a hand. "No, let her speak." Lily looked down at her paper, then up at him with a trembling voice. "My first wish is for you to smile again." Ethan froze. Of all the things a billionaire expected to hear, toys, money, trips, that wasn't it. He blinked hard. "Me?" Lily nodded. "Mom says you used to laugh before your wife went to heaven. She said maybe if you smile again, you'll feel her love instead of her loss." For the first time in years, Ethan didn't know what to say. The room felt smaller, warmer, almost alive. He felt something break, the wall he'd built around his heart. And he smiled. A real one. Not out of habit, but out of gratitude. That's a beautiful wish," he whispered. "And I think you just made it come true." A week later, Lily was admitted to the hospital for her treatment. Ethan visited daily, bringing books, toys, and stories. Slowly, laughter returned to both their lives. One afternoon, Lily announced her second wish. "I wish every kid in this hospital could have the same care I do." Ethan didn't hesitate. He made a call that same night. Within a month, a new children's ward was built. The Lily Wing, fully funded by the Cole Foundation. Maria cried when she saw the sign. "Sir, I don't know how to thank you." Ethan smiled. "You already did the day you raised her." Months passed. Lily grew stronger. One sunny morning, she called Ethan close, her eyes bright as ever. "Ready for my last wish?" she asked. He nodded. "I wish you'd adopt someone who needs love as much as I did. Not just give money, give a home." The words hit him harder than he expected. He'd lost his family long ago, but in Lily's eyes, he saw what he'd been missing all along. Love that expected nothing in return. A year later, Ethan stood in front of a crowd at the new foundation gala. Beside him were Maria and Lily, both smiling. He announced a new program, Homes of Hope, offering housing and scholarships for orphans and struggling families. When the applause faded, Lily tugged his sleeve and whispered, "Looks like you granted your own wish this time." Ethan looked down at her, tears in his eyes. "No, sweetheart. You did." Final scene. The camera pans over the hospital's children's wing, walls painted with stars, laughter echoing down the halls. A framed plaque reads, "For Lily, who taught a billionaire that the greatest wealth is kindness." Months passed, and the Cole mansion was no longer silent. The sound of laughter often echoed through its grand halls, sometimes from Maria humming while cleaning, sometimes from Lily's soft giggles as she played near the piano. Ethan had changed. The once cold, distant billionaire who measured life in profits and deadlines now measured it in smiles and shared meals. He had started showing up at the hospital not with business calls, but with books, coloring sets, and small surprises for the children there. Lily's recovery was steady, and her bright energy seemed to touch everyone around her. Nurses adored her. Even doctors who rarely smiled found themselves laughing at her stories. And through it all, Ethan stayed close, quietly grateful that fate had brought this little girl into his world. One sunny afternoon, as they sat in the hospital garden surrounded by blooming roses, Lily turned to him with a serious look. "Mr. Ethan," she said softly, "remember my last wish?" He smiled, brushing a leaf off his sleeve. "Of course. You've already made 2 pretty big ones. I'm curious what the last one will be." She took a deep breath. "I wish you'd adopt someone who doesn't have anyone. Someone who needs love like I did. Not give them money, not gifts. Just love." Ethan went silent. The simplicity of her words struck deeper than any grand gesture ever could. He had spent his whole life giving donations, scholarships, buildings, but never himself. That night, as he sat in his study, Lily's wish kept replaying in his mind. He looked around the massive house, the empty rooms, the echoing hallways, and realized she was right. He had everything but family. A few weeks later, Maria returned from work to find Ethan waiting in the living room, a quiet smile on his face. "Maria," he said, "I've been thinking about Lily's last wish." Her eyes widened. "Sir, I want to make it come true. I've started a new foundation, Homes of Hope. It will build houses and fund adoptions for orphans and single parents. And," he paused, his voice softening, "I've already filed papers to become a foster parent myself." Maria covered her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Sir, that's what my daughter wanted most. She taught me something I'll never forget," he said. "Kindness isn't about money. It's about presence, about showing up." Months later, the first Home of Hope opened. Children ran through the garden, laughter ringing through the air. A small ceremony was held, and Ethan stood before a crowd of families and volunteers, Maria and Lily beside him. He gave a short speech, simple but sincere. "This all began with 3 wishes," he said, "and the smallest voice reminded me of the biggest truth, that love, freely given, is the greatest gift of all." The crowd applauded, but Ethan's eyes were on Lily. She smiled up at him, her little hand slipping into his. "Looks like your wish came true," she whispered. He bent down, whispering back, "No, Lily, you made it come true." That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the hospital's new children's wing glowed softly, golden light spilling through the windows. A plaque by the door read, "For Lily, who taught a billionaire that the greatest wealth is a kind heart."